Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimai Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. So we're starting on chapter 6 today, and we saw in chapter 5 the question being raised as to whether karm sannyas or karm yoga is superior, and we found that Krishna Bhagavan saying that karm yoga is superior in the Jnana Avastha, because there is nothing which is going to come out of karm sannyas in a Jnana Avastha. And then he goes on to compare and show that how karm sannyas is something which helps or is the next step which leads to Gyan Nishtha and then the final realization in terms of final realization and various other things which we went through. Now, here in the last part of the chapter, it was taken up that what is dhyan? I think the shlok number 27 or 25 was the one in which 27 it was said that this is dhyan, and dhyan you have to sit like this and you have to hold your apan vayu, pran vayu in this way, and after that it goes on to close the chapter. Now this chapter opens with with the need to understand what is dhyan yoga and how it can be made to happen. How can you actually start on dhyan yoga? So the preamble of this chapter we have here, and maybe we can have somebody read it out. It will be nice. Um,
I can.
yeah, please. Whoever wishes.
Preamble. This chapter has been started to explain the Dhyan Yoga, which is an internal sadhana, antarang sadhana. Or, yeah, this was spoken about at the end of the last chapter 527. The external sadhana, Bahirang sadhana for Dhyan Yoga is karma. Hence, till the time a seeker or householder, grihast, is not an expert, rude, or established in Dhyan Yoga, he should continue to perform actions, Karm Yoga. That Karm Yoga is being praised here. Will I continue?
So we understood what was karm yoga in the last session. What was it? Karm yoga was asakti rahit karma. Okay, without having any expectation or any desire for the outcome or for the fruit of the action. Okay, that is what was defined as karm yoga in the previous chapter. And here, therefore, for to practice dhyan yoga or to attain dhyan yoga, it has been clearly said that the external sadhana, okay, is that of karma yoga. What do you mean by bahirang sadhana? That which you can practice, and practice in the sense of external, because when we have our senses directed towards external things, then bringing these senses back to do things internally, that practice is bahirang. And when you then focus your thoughts on something else, so the internal elements are being focused upon on on dhyan, then it will become antarang sadhana. Okay, so here, till the time a seeker or a householder, and a householder is a seeker, he does not become an expert, he does not become established in dhyan yoga, he should continue to perform karma yoga. Okay. And that Karma Yoga is going to be praised here and expanded upon as we go into the chapter. So the question arises, please read.
A question. Why is it that performing actions is limited till the time a person does not become an expert at dhyan or meditation? Has it not been said that till the person lives, he should perform actions?
So the question here is that why are you putting a limitation on the time? Because as such, till the time a human being is alive, he is to perform actions. How are you putting some sort of a boundary that you have to stop performing actions? Okay, and that is the question which has been raised here, and the answer is also very simple. We have seen that answer in the past, but let's review the answer once again. Yeah,
Answer. This is so because a person desirous of being established in yoga, Aru
rukshu.
Rukshu, is required to perform actions. Once he is established in Yoga Rud, he is uninvolved. So he who was the seeker and has become established in yoga, in other words, realized, the reason for him to be realized is given as cessation of action or quietude.
So we know that a person who is realized has no need to perform karma. We saw that in chapter 4. A karma is what he will do. There is no kartavya, there is no duty to perform actions. Okay, so that is what has been repeated here, and at that point, there is therefore a limit which is put because once he becomes expert at dhyan, he has to perform no more action. Once he has become established in dhyan, he has to perform no more action. That's the only limitation in a life when we are not required to perform actions, right? Yeah,
Hence, for the established, realized, there is no duty kartavya to perform actions till the end of life.
correct. Okay. Any questions so far? Is this clear? Simple? Hmm?
Expert at dhyan means a realized person.
Yeah. So the term used is yoga rule. Arud is the root word is saying that you sit on a horse. So Arurukshu is somebody who is trying to climb the horse, and Arud is the person who is sitting on a horse. Okay. Yoga Rud means that who has sat on the horse of yoga. Now, why is it that we are not calling him realized? Because maybe he is still not established fully. Maybe he has been able to reach the peak in terms of his dhyan, but he may not be still stable, established, fully established in it. Okay, so there is a subtlety which is being brought here by using the term yoga rule.
Dhyan yoga is synonymous with samadhan.
The samadhan which we saw in aparokshanubhuti, that is only resolution, which is more like ekagrata. Okay,
That's a prerequisite to dhyan.
prerequisite, and those are the six bhairang sadhanas. Actually, the nine bhairang sadhanas: vivek, vairagya, shamdam, uprati, titiksha, samadhan, shraddha, samadhan, mumukshta. Okay, so those are the nine which are there as bhairang sadhana. Still, so dhyan is now being explored as a antarang sadhana, and for anything which is an antarang sadhana, first we have to understand what is the bahirang sadhana. What is the external practice method which we have to follow? Otherwise, we'll never be able to focus, understand as to how to perform the antarang sadhanas. So, like this, we have a list of sadhanas which are there, okay, and we'll be sharing those lists. Just now, it's too early to get into all the concepts, but we saw nine bahirang sadhanas. Okay, And 10th one, or the first one out of all that is asakti rahit karma, which has been defined now as a bahirang sadhana. Right? Yeah. So we'll read the next slide if there's no more question. Is this okay, or we'll delve into yoga rule again? Okay. So if you point it out, I'll go deeper into that particular concept. Okay. So can we read? Somebody can read the next slide.
This also follows from the context where the benefits obtained from yoga practiced by a householder will perish if he is not emancipated in this birth.
Now let's understand what is the sequence of thought which is proceeding. Okay. First is that can there be a cessation of action? Okay, which got answered. That if you have arrived, you have realized, then there is a पॉजिटिव सेसेशन ऑफ एक्शन, अ कर्म हो जाता है. ठीक है. सेकेंड इज इफ यू डाई देन व्हाट हैपेंस. All the practice which you have done and whatever you have realized in this birth, if suddenly you die, this body becomes dead, then what happens? That's the question which is being asked. That is what is being pointed at. Please read.
Since all obligatory, nitya, or desire prompted kamya actions surely bear the fruit, the householder who performs obligatory duties or desire prompted actions reaps fruits from actions from this life whilst carrying the fruits of actions from previous births. The fear that the performer of actions will lose all benefits of past karmas is not in place, as there is no reason of the possibility that karmas can be destroyed.
So, some very important points being made. No karma can be destroyed. So, karma which you have performed will bear its outcome, its fruit. There is no way we can find a way to have it shortchanged. It will follow you because nitya karma, kartavya karma, which is nitya karma, and any kamya karma, which is that coming out of desire, is going to follow us even in the next birth.
Till realization.
Till realization.
Then it dissolves.
Then it dissolves. Okay. So the only way to dissolve any karma is realization. Otherwise, karmas will follow and we will continue to take birth again and again to fulfill whatever we have to fulfill as a consequence to those outcomes of actions we have performed in the previous births.
So you're born with an advantage. You know, I don't get moksha in this life, but then there's an advantage in my next birth.
Yeah, which has been mentioned in subsequent chapters
That
also.
depends whether the carry forward is positive or negative.
Yes,
Transition could be either way.
she used I, so we had to say yes. Yeah. Okay. So we are all here, and I think we all who are pursuing this, hopefully will have a positive balance of karmas, right? That is the I we are talking about, right?
If it be said that actions dedicated to Lord Ishwar may not bear any fruit, then it is false, since all actions have to bear fruit, and those dedicated to the Lord should be even more fruitful.
Okay. So sometimes we say, अब हमने ये कर्म कर दिया, अब ये ईश्वर पे छोड़ दिया, अब ईश्वर जो है उसको संभालेगा. अब वो ठीक है, ईश्वर संभालेगा, वो एक अलग बात है. बट ये भी समझना जरूरी है कि यदि ये सोचें कि उस कर्म का कोई फल नहीं होगा, तो कर्म का फल तो अवश्य होगा. अब यदि आपने उसको भगवान पे छोड़ दिया है, तो हो सकता है कि आप आसक्त रहित हैं उस कर्म में, तो आप पे आके वो नहीं, आपको आके वो नहीं बांधेगा. केवल इतना ही हो सकता है. ठीक है. तो वो फल जरूर होगा. और यहाँ पर ये वाक्य से करेक्ट बोला गया है कि फल अधिकतर ज़्यादा अच्छा ही होता है, क्योंकि भगवान पे छोड़ा जाता है. ठीक है.
The opening shlok, not dependent, refers to the householder who renounces the fruit and meditates. He is called a sannyasi and a yogi. It does not negate the sannyasi who does not maintain the household fire and does not perform actions.
So here, in this preamble itself, the comparison which is being made between a householder who renounces just the fruit or the outcome, okay, and he is going to be called a sannyasi in the next shloka. So how does it compare with the sannyasi who is actually sarkarm sannyasi, who has left all action, who is defined as a person who is not maintaining a household fire, okay, who is not remaining in the grahast ashram, okay. वो जो सन्यासी है वो और ये सन्यासी के बारे में जो कहा जा रहा है, ये दो अलग अलग सन्यासियों के बारे में कहा जा रहा है इस समय, और कैसे वो सन्यासी एक है नहीं है वो समझने के लिए अब हम आगे पढ़ेंगे. ठीक है, कोई क्वेश्चन अभी? ठीक है.
He who is not dependent, anashrit, on the outcomes.
Now we'll hold here. So when I perform an action, I perform an action with some outcome in mind. Right? That outcome is the one based on which I am performing an action. So, in a sense, my performing an action, okay, is dependent on that outcome which is in my mind. Okay, I have not got attachment to it, but it is in my mind. Okay, and once it is in my mind, it is ashrit. It is taking the basis of that outcome to perform the action. ठीक है? No. Suppose again, I want to perform an action. To do what? Why will I perform an action?
Desire something.
पहले desire छोड़ो, पहले कुछ outcome के लिए. Some outcome. I want to go from here to my flat. I have to walk. Simple one. There is no major desire, no major trishna, craving, nothing. Okay? You just performing a simple action because the outcome is that I want to reach. I want to reach. Okay? So there is a certain dependence on reaching that place that I start with this action of walking. Okay? So my action of walking is dependent on the purpose which is there to reach there. ठीक है? Sure. Simple. ठीक है? Simple है ना?
Such a person who does not depend on the outcomes performs his duty, meaning who does not perform.
No. You have.
Second half of the first sentence.
Do I left out?
Yeah. He who is not dependent, anashritaha.
Okay, I thought I had read that.
No.
He
On
who
the
is-
outcomes,
He
he
who
is
not
without craving for the outcomes.
Huh.
Okay, so first thing we have understood that not only is it that he is not dependent, but he is also not craving for the outcome. ठीक है? He is doing it maybe just for kartavya, just as nitya kar. Simple one, okay? So this is not a kamya ka. It is not coming out of craving. Okay, simple. Okay, now, as only the one who desires for the fruit of action takes recourse to depend on the fruit. तो जो आउटकम को डिजायर करता है वही जो है उसका आश्रित होता है और उस आश्रय के अनुसार ही वो कर्म करता है. ठीक है? अब हम अपने In our minds, we should take an example and see. The logic is clear, right? This logic has to be clear. Simple logic has to be clear. Because now we'll take further steps on this logic.
But all of us perform an action thinking of an outcome.
Correct.
That's natural.
Correct. But in the Nitya Karma, Kartavya Karma, and Kamya Karma, what is the difference between the three?
Not depending upon the outcome.
No,
Huh.
you are not desirous of the outcome or you're not craving for the
The
outcome.
outcome.
Okay. Dependence तो है. Okay. Now let's look at it.
That's really important. Dependence है, but craving नहीं.
नहीं है. So let's look at the next sentence.
Such a person who does not depend on the outcomes performs his duty, meaning who does not perform actions based on his cravings.
Now we stop here. So he's created a distinction between that which is depending on duty or performance of duty and that which is based on his cravings.
Cravings.
Okay.
Such a person is superior to other persons involved in actions involved in actions.
Full stop.
In
So
this
here it is
context,
said,
huh,
such a person who does not depend on the outcome performs his duty. ठीक है? Meaning he does not perform actions based on his cravings. Such a person who does not base his actions on cravings, he is superior to other persons who are involved in actions. Clear? So he is now said, the person who is doing his duty, kartavya karma, he is superior to the person who is doing other types of karmas.
Last one, I think.
नहीं है?
Last
The person who is doing kartavya karma, he is superior to the person who is doing karmas, other karmas, which are like actions arising out of desires. काम्य कर्म करने वाला जो है वो श्रेष्ठ नहीं है, जो व्यक्ति कर्तव्य कर्म कर रहा है वही श्रेष्ठ है. If I am performing an action to fulfill my desire or a craving, I am not doing as superior a action, performing as superior an action as when I am doing my kartavya karma, my duty. Very clear?
Any difference between Nitya Karma and Kartavya Karma?
They are similar. Nitya is that which is just normal, अपना जो शरीर चलाने के लिए जो कर्म करते हैं उसको नित्य कर्म. कर्तव्य is that which is duty, which is little more in terms of towards the external self, external to the self.
So Nitya would be internal.
It will be more for the body,
Self-functionality.
body functionality, not self functionality,
Yeah.
body functionality. In this context, this person is considered a sannyasi or a yogi. Which person? The person who is performing kartavya karma. Are you getting it? That kartavya karma has been emphasized to such an extent. ठीक है?
See, if the person is performing karma for the craving, he may be assuming that this is his kartavya. How does he distinguish between kartavya and craving?
In his own mind, his intention, he has to explore and understand that. I cannot be somebody who can judge that.
So there is no hard and fast definition of difference between kartavya and craving.
There is a hard and fast rule. When you go back into the definition of kartavya, it is said it is according to the Varna Ashram Dharma that you're performing your actions. That is kartavya.
See, a person may have a craving for teaching, let's say.
Yeah.
It can be craving, it can be kartavya.
No, it is a craving because he is doing something out of his normal thing, which is his duty. Let's say, if you are a person who is at this moment engaged in teaching, that's your profession, that's your capability, and you have to teach because you have to earn money. So I'm now you say that this person says that I am now leaving this, or I'm going to do something on the side. Okay. Now he may justify to himself that I am doing it for the benefit of my family because I am a grahast. Okay. But if he is doing it simply in terms of fulfilling the needs of the grahastha ashram, without expanding that particular activity to grab more, greed, to get more than that, then he starts becoming a person who is performing actions to fulfill his cravings.
But how can that be a craving? I think a craving is something which is an extreme.
We will be
desire.
looking at definitions also. We're coming to definitions, okay?
I mean,
We're coming to definitions of craving, and we've done that in the past also, but we can do it again.
I'm saying like just fulfilling your duty for your family, that's not a craving.
That is, so let's understand. Craving is desiring that thing which we don't have.
But in an
Okay.
extreme way, like I really have to have it,
Yeah.
or
Yeah, in a more
in a greedy
severe
kind
way,
of
in a
Yeah.
more severe
Yeah.
way. Okay. And that which we say that we are having, and I want to hold on to it, or I like it, that is attachment.
Yeah.
Okay. So craving is what we don't have, we want to get, and attachment is to that which we have and we like it. It gives us, makes us feel happy, makes us feel good.
Yeah.
Okay. So that difference is there. And craving is really, therefore, something which we don't have. More often than enough, more often than not, it will be something which will not be really required by us. It is going beyond what we need. Okay.
It's greed.
Right. So now let's look at some logic here as we are proceeding with this. So far we have understood that kartavya karma is superior to kamya karma. Okay? Now let's go forward. Sannyas is another name for renouncing. Okay? Which is tyag. Okay? The word tyag is similar, right? I'm not saying it's the same. Okay, we'll see the difference. Okay, and the resolution of the inner self is yoga. जो समाधान है वो योग है. ठीक है, जो आप समाधान पूछ रहे हैं. He who thus performs is a yogi. Hence, a karma yogi is considered to have these characteristics. How? Karma yogi is renouncing the fruit of his actions. So he is renouncing. He is doing tyag of those outcomes. The renouncing of those fruits, therefore, makes him sannyasi. But let's understand a sannyasi. A sannyasi not only has renounced the fruit of his actions, but he's also renounced action by itself. Right? सर्व कर्म संन्यास जो करते कहते हैं वो कर्म जो है वो भी परफॉर्म नहीं करते हैं. सन्यासी जो है वो कर्म नहीं परफॉर्म करता है. क्यों नहीं परफॉर्म करता है? क्योंकि वो अब रियलाइज्ड स्टेट में पहुंच रहा है या पहुंच गया है, तो अब उसको कर्म की आवश्यकता नहीं है आगे चलने के लिए. जैसे ध्यान, जब हम ध्यान योग में आरूढ़ हो जाएंगे तो हमें आगे चलने के लिए कर्म करने की आवश्यकता नहीं, तो कर्म हमारे छूट गए. इस तरह से सन्यासी के भी कर्म छूट गए. अब त्याग और रिनाउंसिंग में, त्याग और जो कर्म छूटने की बात है वो दो फर्क चीजें. त्याग जो है कॉन्शियस एफर्ट है टू लेट गो ऑफ, टू रिनाउंस. द अदर वन इज दैट इट हैपेंस. Okay.
It's a result.
It is a result of your own practices.
Yeah.
Okay. So, however, we are treating it as the same in this case, and we are trying to understand a point that tyag which you are doing by renouncing the fruit of your action makes you a sannyasi. And since you have to perform actions in any case, therefore you are a yogi. Therefore, you are called a sannyasi and a yogi. Is that okay? Got it clear? You are not the same sannyasi as that sannyasi, but you are called a sannyasi and a yogi. And therefore, renouncing the fruit of your action has been now almost as if equated to that of being a sannyasi. Are you getting the logic? Clear? So, we have started with this in chapter 2, talking about asakti rahit karma.
Can you give example for this person who has done
Yeah,
who has was a yogi, not
yeah. So we have those examples. Okay, we'll come to some of those. Okay, okay. But let's finish this logic. There are some more points here which we'll first address before we come to your question. Okay. People who do not have fire in the hearth, meaning who have left grihastha ashram, they are called niragni, and who are not performing actions are performing actions such as performing tapa or doing charity. Okay, such actions, they are akriya, and such people are not the only ones who are sannyasis and yogis. So he is saying here that people who have who are in normal terms called sannyasis, and they're performing tapas, they're performing uh, charity work, and they have given up everything else in their life. They are not the only sannyasis and yogis. Even these people who are renouncing the outcome of their actions or the fruit of their actions, they are also sannyasis and yogis. Okay. By taking one characteristic, Bhagwan says not having a desire for the fruit of action means that is the nature of a sannyasi, and practicing karma as part of actions, that is yoga, means the nature of a yogi. In this way, having the sense of both characteristics, such a person is called a sannyasi and a yogi. ठीक है? Simple now, straight. Okay. Okay, we'll take your question now. Okay, you're saying we perform actions without having any desire for the outcome. Okay, only when we perform actions without the desire for an outcome can we actually perform an action in its totality. And therefore, what we do as an action is superior, it is much more focused. Our full attention is on that alone. As an example, if we were to look at Mahabharata, and Arjun says that I am only seeing the eye of the fish, and that is when he releases the arrow. Okay, he is totally focused only on his action and not on the outcome. That is when the arrow is going to go and hit the eye, the reflection. You know the story, right?
right.
Okay.
I just
And in
want
a similar way, and many examples.
yeah,
Moving
in
from
this
one
world,
example
real
to
world,
one example to another.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for example, if at the time of fighting the battle, your mind is going to wander away as to what is going to happen post the war, post the battle, then how will you fight the battle? Okay. In our own lives, if I am cooking, for example, and I'm not focused on cooking, I'm sure I'll put salt twice in the food. Am I right? And this is actually focus. As soon as your mind gets diverted from that particular activity to something else, और यू से अब तो खाना जो है मेरे को अब मेरी पार्टी हो रही है, उसमें सबको मेरी बड़ी तारीफ करनी चाहिए मेरे खाने की. एंड दैट डे व्हेन यू हैव मेड दैट फूड तारीफ वाला, यू विल फाइंड दैट एवरीबडी विल से कि ये थोड़ा कच्चा रह गया, ये नमक ज़्यादा हो गया. समथिंग विल हैपन, इट विल गो रॉन्ग. Okay. Similarly, when we are as practicing managers, and I think you are looking for an example there, if I am preparing something as a presentation, let's say to the board of the company, and I'm forgetting that, I'm only anxious about everything else about the outcome, then what I'll put sequentially in my presentation will not make sense, and people who are sitting on the board meeting will say, he is not making sense. He's made a wonderful presentation, but he's not making sense. It'll come up. Okay. So applying yourself without having that focus on the outcome makes your task perfect. You may not get those pats on your back, and you have not desired for them, or you don't carry it in your head, right? And therefore you are able to deliver those outcomes.
One still wants to do the work well, whatever work has been assigned. So there is this feeling that yes, I must do it well so that.
Yeah, so doing it well is one thing. That is certainly your objective. But desirous of the outcome, what outcome? कि मेरे को कोई अच्छा बोले, या मैंने अच्छा किया, मेरे को शाबाशी मिले, या मेरा कोई अल्टीरियर मोटिव है वो फुलफिल हो. Some desire which I want to, most desires are for basically achieving your ambition, or it will be something to do with affirmations which you need to get from people.
Quite
Mostly.
interesting that it's proper management practice. If you want to cook well, don't focus on result.
Yeah.
If you are doing anything,
Yeah.
you just focus on your action, not the result.
Yeah, and we say that.
Yeah.
But we are making a bigger classification here. Focusing on the result is a simple one, that I say that I have to do well in my exam. Everybody gets 100 in maths, I should also get 100. Now, but I stop thinking about that 100 now, and I start saying, let me put my effort on. What will happen as a consequence of that 100? I should not be thinking. But often enough, my mind will go, if I get 100 in this and 100 in this, now I'll go to this college, I'll go here, and I'll be so good with my friends, and people will treat me like this, and my parents will be happy like that, and all that will start happening. Okay.
His mind
Yeah.
wanders in the past or in the future, I guess.
That is also true.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we can move into cravings and desires, which is that borderline between need and greed.
Yes.
Okay. And now we can shift into that. So examples are many. I gave you some simple ones, and these are greed and need are again defining it differently. Okay. Now let's proceed, and we'll be coming back to more such examples if you feel like, and you can also bring those examples, okay, because it will be nice to hear them.
What is the difference between sannyasi and yogi, or are they same?
योगी जो है वो तो कर्म करता है. कर्म मतलब एक्शन उसको करना ही है. जो सन्यासी है, जो एक हमने सन्यास पहले शब्द यूज किया था, उसमें अकर्मी है, उसमें कर्म नहीं करना, वो सर्व कर्म सन्यासी माना जाता है.
So yogi is superior to sannyasi, I guess.
Correct. In that context of that sannyasi. Okay. Now here, he's still going to continue to perform action. But he is going to perform action without desire for the outcome. You get the point? We are not walking away from performing action. The quality of that action which we are performing changes because we are not, and that quality is now equal to that quality of what a sannyasi does. And now we're going to proceed further, and you'll realize that how it really works in our lives also. Okay? Please, somebody can read.
People who do not have
The person
602.
602. The person who is the knower, who renounces all actions and their fruits, is the correct sannyasi. Hey Panda, know this practice of karma without any desire for the fruit also as that of correct sannyas.
Okay? So 602 says very categorically, upfront, that sannyasi, which we talked about earlier, who is not performing any actions and also renounces fruits, both कर्म और कर्म फल दोनों ही वो त्यागता है. वो और ये जो केवल कर्म फल त्याग रहा है, ये दोनों ही सन्यासी हैं. ठीक है, यहाँ पर स्पष्ट श्लोक नंबर 2 में बोला गया है. Now let's read further.
How is the propensity activity based karma yoga and its opposite, renunciation contemplative based ultimate sannyas, accepted as same?
How is it accepted as same? So let's understand that. Please read.
Read further. The ultimate sannyasi has renounced all methods of actions, meaning has renounced all actions and thoughts which are the reasons for desires pertaining to their outcomes. And the karma yogi.
So let's understand what has the ultimate sannyasi done. He has renounced all actions and all thoughts which are pertaining to those actions. Even thoughts, sankalp, and all thoughts which are leading to, because only when you have a thought, then that thought can move towards outcomes. Now, you said the right thing. Let's understand. Any thought which you have has a tendency to move towards an outcome. And therefore, that thought leads to action. Right? We always say when you have a thought, it will get translated into action. When you have a sankalp, you have a thought, it will possibly be leading to some outcome, and that outcome will drive the action. Okay? Please read.
And the karma yogi, whilst performing actions, is also renouncing the thoughts pertaining to the outcomes. In this manner, both are same.
We have understood this.
Such a doer of karmas who has not renounced thoughts pertaining to or desire for the outcomes cannot be a yogi.
Yeah, so who has not renounced this thought towards outcomes, he cannot be a yogi. Karm yogi, we have defined that in the past. Karm yogi is a person who is renounced desire for the fruit of action. Yeah.
Meaning it is not possible for the mind of such a person to be in peace.
Yeah, hang on. That is it. If a person has a thought which is on the outcome, then his mind is not going to be at peace. Right? We saw that in all the examples. Okay, because the desire for the fruit is the cause of distraction of the mind.
Expectations.
Anything,
Yeah.
distraction of the mind. It will distract your mind. Okay. Now let's look at what is being said next.
Meaning to say, only through renunciation of the reason for the distraction of the mind,
Which is
the thought of the outcome, desire for the fruit, the person has peace of mind, is an undistracted yogi.
right. Clear? Simple. Just repeating some things to reinforce something. Okay. Please go ahead.
6.3. The Karma Yoga is equated with sannyas, and now it is shown how it is the path to Dhyan Yoga. He who is desirous to become established in Dhyan Yoga but is not yet established, for such a Karma Yogi, the path is karma.
Correct. We have understood this. A person not established in dhyan has to still perform actions. That is what is being said. Such a karma yogi, for him the path is karma.
As a person becomes less and less desirous of fruits of actions, he slowly is able to effortlessly control his senses and his mind becomes peaceful. With this, he soon becomes established in Dhyan Yoga, Yoga Rooಢ.
Okay. So let us look at what has been said. We saw in the last shlok that his mind becomes more peaceful. It is not distracted. If his mind is not distracted by what are the outcomes, then only he can sit for dhyan. Otherwise, all the dhyan which we try and do is only taking our mind onto some focal point and making having that mind running away all the time into various hundred different directions, because our own thought has not got stabilized. We are still looking at outcomes. We'll be, as what you said, looking at the future or the past in our thoughts, and those thoughts will keep running to those things, and you will not be able to do any dhyan. Okay? The only way to therefore align or get the mind to become undistracted is to do this particular practice of asakti rahit karma. Okay, and that is how it becomes a prerequisite for dhyan. Okay, and then he goes on to say that as a person becomes less and less desirous of fruits of action, okay, he is going to be more peaceful. He will understand that I have to control my senses because they are only leading me to looking at outcomes, okay, and to run after the fruits of the action. And as soon as he becomes more peaceful, uh, with control on his senses, he becomes established, or he starts proceeding to get established in Dhyan Yoga.
So that means the thoughts go on decreasing, the flow of thoughts goes on decreasing.
If your thoughts are not anchored on the outcome, then the thoughts will only remain in what you are doing. And that practice by itself is a huge practice. Even in meditation, when we practice meditation, all the time our mind is running away from what we need to focus on. If I am doing that as I'm performing my karma, then you are anyway starting to get into meditation. Are you seeing that as a consequence, as a corollary?
What was your last sentence?
If you are performing action without having that mind run in various directions, that itself is the beginning of dhyan. Are you seeing the two things happening?
Mind is getting focused.
Yeah, obviously. It is learning not to run after. It is learning how to remain. Now, what is the mind really? Uh, what is the mind all about? It is only doing things in terms of following the senses. जो बाहर उसको दिखता है, सुनता है, जो चखता है, जो सूंघ आती, उसी पे जाके उसका दिमाग बैठता है, और वहां से फिर वो चालू हो जाता है कहीं दूर भागना.
Because
ठीक है.
simultaneously you do something, then your mind goes to the other thing, then third thing. So
Yeah, so it starts. Mind has the tendency to follow its senses or thoughts which are externally bound.
yeah,
start focusing that and saying, I'm not looking at that external bound outcome, the fruit of my action, and remaining focused on what I'm doing, then the first practice is started. And he's saying the next thing is that it becomes, your own mind starts becoming less and less desirous of the fruits of your actions. वो धीरे धीरे प्रैक्टिस में ऐसे ऐसे होते जाते हैं. And therefore what happens, we'll see next.
6.4.
Yeah.
When does the practitioner become established in Dhyan Yoga? He who has obtained peace in his mind, then the senses, meaning in the words which are objects of senses.
Just now, so when does he become established in Dhyan Yoga? When his mind becomes peaceful. He who has obtained peace in his mind. Okay? Then the senses, okay? What are senses doing? Senses, meaning in the words which are the objects of the senses. Okay. Senses are looking at, I look at this. The word is chair. The senses are going to the chair, which is the object, and the word, which is defining that object as the chair. Okay? So here, meaning in the words which are objects of the senses. So, what are senses? Those words which are describing the object of the senses. So, just keep these 3-4 words together for a moment. So, it says, when a practitioner becomes established in Dhyan Yoga, when does he do that? When he has obtained peace in his mind, then the senses, in terms of these objects which are described by the words, and in daily nitya karma, prescribed, naimittik karma, desirable, kamya karma, prohibited, nishit karmas, okay, he has no purpose for himself. So when he has this word describing this object which is being understood by the senses, he has no purpose in that object for himself. In the nitya karma, he has got no purpose for himself. In the naimittik is that which has been prescribed. Okay? Kamya karma, desirable karma. Prohibited nishit karmas. In all those, he sees that there is nothing which he has any purpose in terms of performing those karmas for himself.
Meaning that when a word comes to his mind, ice cream, movie, it doesn't create any excitement. That's it.
Yeah, for himself. He doesn't need it. Now, once you started understanding that he doesn't need it, now what is happening? He's already moving away from normal activities of life, of senses, of this life. Which in a sense, whilst he's performing karmas, he's already in sannyas. He is not pushing himself to not see a movie. He now sees no purpose in seeing the movie.
So now whether he goes to the movie or doesn't go to the movie is the same for him.
He is in a state which is very different.
He's happy in the state. People go to watch movies to become happy.
Yeah, he's already there.
Okay. He does not get attached to any of the outcomes of these karmas or these objects, meaning he does not think that I should do this. ये मेरे को करने की आवश्यकता है, ऐसा वो नहीं सोचता. क्योंकि अब जब कोई पर्पस नहीं है किसी एक्शन का for himself, then he is performing that action for nitya karma, naimittik karma, kartavya karma. And even if it's for desire, let's say, then it is not for his own purpose to be fulfilled. It's a desire that somebody is now going to be helped. जो हम कहते हैं लोक संग्रह. Okay. And निश्चित कर्मा तो करने की बात नहीं है. He doesn't need to do any, which is prohibited. So in this fashion, in that depth which we have taken this to, it is very clear that the person starts moving towards that sannyasa, which is that ultimate sannyas in any case. So he has become a sannyasi and a yogi. Yogi because still performing actions. Now I think we have just about 2-3 minutes, and I'll just wrap this up. We will do the rest next time. Then at that time means when he is going through this process, he who has the habit of renouncing all thoughts, अभी तो हम outcomes of actions को हम, we were saying we are not looking at them. Now I have started looking at my thoughts, and I have started renouncing all thoughts which are the cause of all desire for all things. Such a person is now established in Dhyan Yoga. Okay? Because the root of all desires is purposive thought, sankalp. कोई संकल्प होता है, कोई इच्छा. संकल्प इज गॉट अ लिटिल ब्रॉड मीनिंग. संकल्प जो है इच्छा में भी आ जाता है. कोई इच्छा हुई, कोई जो है चीज हुई, तो उसके बेसिस पे हमने कोई एक्शन लिया. तो ये जो है that thought which comes, which is at the root of this particular purposive action or purposive thought, that thought also he starts finding is of no reason, of no meaning. Okay. By logic too, and I'm reading the last sentence, by logic too, if all thoughts or any such resolves are renounced, then a person cannot move even a little. Right? Without a purpose, you will not walk to the flat, for example. Okay? Hence, by saying renunciate of all thoughts, Sarv Sankalp Sannyasi, Sankalp is thought, Sarv is all, Sarv Sankalp Sannyasi. Bhagwan makes us renounce all desires, stroke cravings, and as a consequence, over a period of time, all actions also. Okay, so as we progress on this path, slowly, you are not finding any purpose in performing various types of actions, and then you come to a stage where actually you are a sannyasi, and that means that you're not performing any actions in any case, which is that stage of final dhyan, the realized person. Now, therefore, the progression for a karma yogi like us, karmi like us, is to follow karma yoga, and that karma yoga followed with perseverance will lead us to become that sannyasi, which eventually is the one which becomes jnanishth and becomes realized, which we have read about in the previous chapter. So you see the sequence of things in terms of the definitions.
The next time we like to have a say example of a karma yogi, so that we are, as you told us, the booking example and the boardroom example. It was very clear what
So
we
you
mean
will see the karma yogi when you see certain gurus. Okay, right? So that question will possibly get answered by seeing some. Okay.
Sarv Sankalp Sannyasi is same as Sarv Karam Sannyasi. Is it?
Yeah, slowly that Sarv Sankalp sannyasi moves towards becoming a Sarv Karm sannyasi because it's got no purpose remaining for any action. Okay,
Our Sankalp is connected to the
to the
action.
action.
Sir, how can we replace the desirous thoughts in, like, we shouldn't desire everything?
So that's a question which we'll answer. Again, it's bring in pratipaksh bhavna, which means take an opposite thought and counter this desirous thought with the opposite thought.
For example,
Somebody should give an example. I have given examples many times.